Sure. Sirius XM, we are the heat. What's hot now in R&B and hip hop? Blah blah blah. Shut up!
Oh, you did that.
Shut up, man.
Yo. I'm so bummed my 10-year-old's not here right now.
These moments
He'd be
kill me.
so
man.
excited.
These
He'd be so
moments
excited.
kill me, man. Okay, so I thought I had a pretty cool job. I thought what I did was pretty hot. I get to talk to
No,
people.
you do have a great job.
No, it's not as cool as yours, man. No. What you do is what I think every radio guy one day wants to acquiesce and grow and build to be able to do, man. Let me tell you. So I began watching your show way back. Let me tell you how stupid I was as a kid.
Okay.
So when I was young, E.T. the extraterrestrial
Right.
was popping.
Yes.
Popping.
Yeah.
And I would think to myself as a kid, so how'd they take this movie and turn it into a TV show? Because every day on the mic flags, I would see this show called E.T. with Mary Hart and John Tesh. How they turned this movie, The Extraterrestrial, into a TV show that I watch at 7:30 every day. When I stopped being stupid and realized what it really stood for,
Yes.
it stood for Entertainment Tonight. And now it's on its 98th season now?
107.
Yes,
107.
yes. Congratulations. Kevin Frazier is here, everybody.
Dan, first of all, thanks for having me, and I'm so excited because, as you know, people may not know this, but when you walked in the room and you opened your mouth, I lost my mind a little bit because the heat is on in my car. It's the child-proof approved,
Yes.
and my children always get in there put on the heat, put on the heat.
Love
And I'm
them, man.
okay.
Thank you.
And so
Thank you,
it's
man.
so cool to sit here with you, and so if I look a little glazed over and weird,
No.
it's the reason why.
I'm geeking on a little bit myself,
Okay.
man.
All right,
Seriously,
all right.
seriously, man. Congratulations, dude. Congratulations, man.
It's a wild ride, and it's amazing being a part of this machine that is the #1 entertainment show in the world.
Yes.
And to be entrusted with this, and for Mary Hart was the greatest ever.
Oh
She's
my
the
God.
GOAT.
Oh my- yes,
Tom
yes.
Brady is the greatest quarterback. Michael Jordan was the greatest
Right,
basketball player.
right.
Mary Hart was the greatest entertainment reporter.
She sat
in
with
history.
everybody twice. I'm telling you, man.
I'll never forget when I first started, we had this tape of Mary Hart walking with Michael Jackson. And Michael Jackson
Yes.
says to Mary, he says, "Hold my hand because I'm nervous."
Oh my God.
And I'm like, Mary's like, "I got you, Michael. I got you." I was like, man, Mary Hart. So it's a great job, and
Yeah.
it is an amazing privilege. And yes, we are on our 107th season, but no, really, honestly, 36th.
It's so dope, man. So dope. Why do you think Entertainment Tonight's been able to persevere and survive? Not even survive, excel, because you guys were pre-TMZ,
Yes.
before TMZ. Now you're post-TMZ and still surviving, still winning.
Yeah, well, I think that, what it is stars come to talk to E.T.
Yeah.
We sit down with stars. We are a place where, they talk about their projects and what they're doing or what's going on in their life. And it's not covering someone when they walk out of a door and into a car door.
Yeah.
Or it's not covering someone with a long lens and we're trying to sneak some pictures.
Right.
It really is talking to entertainers. And so that's the thing, that E.T. has always been that place
Yeah.
where Hollywood royalty come to. And so that's what we love about our show, and that's what we kind of pride ourselves on. Others talk about people.
Yes.
We talk to them.
There's no motive. It seems that, like, if I'm a celebrity, if I'm pushing a movie, a TV show,
Yeah.
I can let my guard down in front of Kevin. I can be myself in front of Nancy. I can just be cool.
We want to talk to you, and also we want to talk about your project. We
Yeah.
care about your movie. We're excited about that. And so that's a great part of what we do and how our life is that we want to be the standard bearer for the entertainment world. And
Yeah.
there are other places out there that want to, throw up crazy stories and pictures and make insinuations about things. We're the place where people come to fix those
Yeah.
rumors and that bad press.
What's been the coolest thing? Kevin Frazier's here. The coolest job in America. What's been the coolest interview or session you've been a part of that you had an out-of-body experience and thought, oh my God, I'm here?
There have been a couple of things that have blown my mind. I would say that getting to cover Prince
Wow.
and then getting to have dinner at Prince's house
Okay.
was probably the weirdest thing. But covering Prince was like nothing you've ever seen before, because here's this guy, in this aura, but he was the greatest. When he was alive, he was the greatest living musician.
Yes.
And people didn't understand this. And you have these parties at his house, and he'd invite people over, and he'd be like, come on, let's play. Let's do it. You want to switch the key? You want to play fast? You want to go rock and roll? You want to go salsa? What do you want to do? He could do anything, and it would blow your mind. And and he would just play all night. There'd be 20 people in his house, and he would play all night long. There would be, 100 people in his house. He would play all night long. And so it was like watching that was just mind-blowing, mind-boggling.
Yeah.
And he was amazing.
When Prince invites you to eat, like what's in Prince's kitchen? What does he serve you?
Okay, so first of all, we go into Prince's house, and sitting around the table, and I look, and there's, a couple of people who have worked with him, and then there's Maya and her dad, and me and my wife, and it's like, whoa. And we had, we had, it was just like, no meat.
Right.
But we had like a lasagna or something like that. But the cool part was Prince just had soup. And he sat there and he had his soup. But then we sat there and we had all these great, he wanted people to come in and he wanted to have conversations about what's going on in the world.
Right.
And like to connect himself from the world. So we're talking. And then all of a sudden these radio executives come in and they sit down. We're like, oh, hey guys, how you doing? And all of a sudden Prince just like flips the switch and goes in on them. Wow. And he's like, I want to understand why I'm in Love with the Stripper is on heavy rotation, but my song Black Heat or Black Sweat can't get any run.
I love that he knew that. I love that he knew that distinction.
And no. He knew it all. And so that was the beauty of it. And, we forget this guy was, he was a pioneer with his own service that put out his own music.
Yeah.
And he did so many amazing things.
That's awesome. No basketball game challenge at all?
So he lived in a house that belonged to Carlos Boozer for a while.
Yeah.
And in there was a full basketball court up on the 3rd level. And whenever I went over there, I always wanted to say, I'll take you out there and give you the business. But
that was your opportunity.
But you couldn't say that to Prince.
What could he have said? You were in his house. You were, you're eating his food. Like what could he have said, Kevin?
You could not say that to Prince. And I always used to joke with him because we went to this gold ticket party in his house.
Yeah.
And from there, I always say that was I told him, I was like, that's the night my child was conceived. And he'd always be like, don't blame it on me.
Right.
And I'd be like, no, Prince, really it was. And it was just crazy because you got a glimpse of this dude who was such a genius. He was such a genius. And it just breaks my heart that he's not here anymore.
I love the fact, Kevin, that you are, most of us, alas, have never met Prince. Most of us will never meet the people that you talk to on a daily basis. And the fact that you bring us closer to these icons than most of us will ever get is pretty cool stuff.
Listen, the fact that I get to stand closer to these icons is pretty amazing. And you want to hear their stories and make them human, because we take these people and we turn them into these things, these deities, and we don't treat them like human beings.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we need to do more of. It's like I was talking to Anita Baker after she said she retired.
Mm-hmm.
She was like, "Look,
Which time?
This time, this last time,
right?"
And she was just like, "Hey, I want to sit out. I want to hang out at the beach. I want to be with my boys.
Yeah.
I want to do their laundry and cook their dinner. I don't want to go on the road anymore." And that's what she does. She gets up in the morning, she looks out at the ocean, she drinks her coffee, and she's like, "I'm good." She sold a lot of albums.
I had that same conversation. See, between the other B, and I was just talking about Anita Baker the other day, an artist who lives their career on their own terms.
Yes.
She wanted to have a family. She did the rapture thing. She did composition. And she's like, all right, I'm good now. I'm going to chill.
I'm going to go have my boys. And and people are always like, oh, Anita, why isn't she doing this? Anita's living her life. And who's to say if we all didn't have that choice? If we all had that choice where we could say, you know what, I'm not going to work for a while.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you chill? Why would you get up and grind every day?
Yeah.
So I love that about her.
Kevin Frazier's here, host of Entertainment Tonight, returning for his 375th season this fall, 7:30 around most of the country. Check your local listings. It's probably on your CBS affiliate or just follow that. You can't miss it. If you weren't doing this, man, what would you be doing?
You know, it's funny. I always tell people, and their heads kind of spin around, and I tell them I'm trained to be a basketball coach. My father was a basketball coach. He was a college basketball coach. He coached in the NBA, and I feel like that's the thing I was trained to be in. No matter how successful I am, I always look at him, and I think in the back of his mind, he's like, I wasted all that time and energy on this fool, and he's standing on a red carpet.
Right,
and,
right.
I know he's excited about it, but he's also like, I taught you how to recruit, son.
Right.
I taught you the offenses and defenses.
That was the passion, man.
Right,
That was the play.
It's like you can sit down and you can read a defense. What the hell are you doing talking to J-Lo?
So at first they didn't really get it, because I know. When I first came out of college, radio, I was making, $7.50 an hour doing overnights, and it's like, wait a minute, I paid all this money for this?
Well, that's what everybody, my first job in Charleston, South Carolina as a cameraman, and I was making, my base salary was $13,000.
Nice.
And, it was what it was, and with overtime, I think I got up to 18, and I lived in my grandparents', I lived in their house on the top floor of their house in a hot, raggedy room, but it was okay because that's where you find out if you have a passion for something, and clearly you had a passion for it, and it shows today. When I hear you on the Heat, I can hear the passion in your love for what you do.
You see what's happening? You see how he's interviewing me now? You see how good he is? You see how he's flipping it like that? You see what's happening here?
No, that's my excitement.
Frazier,
it will never be the same when I'm riding in my car now. Whenever I hear you, I'll be like, yo, I sat with him.
Come on now. Yo, an interview that went left.
Oh, there's been a few.
I'm sure there've been quite a few.
There've been a few.
We probably haven't seen them because they've been edited out and they've hit the, and we don't get to see them. But was there any time when you're like, damn it, I wish I had the do-over there?
There's been a few times. And you know what? You never know where it's going. But the story I always tell is, I played on this little basketball. When I was doing sports, I played on a basketball team with Ashton Kutcher, and I was like, hey, we're cool. Everything's cool. And during the movie Junket for A Lot Like Love, I go into the room, and, he's married to Demi Moore, and there's stuff going down. And I say, I ask him about Demi Moore, and Ashton goes ham. He goes off on me. And, and at that moment, you start to sweat a little bit, and you feel the heat coming over you because you're like, yo, I might have to tackle this dude, and we're going to wrestle in the Four Seasons because this is coming out of nowhere. And then, I'm like, oh, deep breaths, deep breaths. Then we go out in the hallway, and his publicist comes out behind me, and we are yelling at the top of our voices in the Four Seasons, screaming and cursing at each other. And I was like, man, this went left. And as I got in my car, and I was like, man, what am I going to do next? Because I'm sure I'm getting fired today. And my boss was like, the beautiful thing, my boss was like, you know what? That movie doesn't even exist. Forget that movie.
Wow.
Because they went left on you. And I was like, wow, I really appreciate that. But a few months later, I'm at the Super Bowl. I get off an elevator. Somebody tackles me and jumps up. I was like, what's up? What's up? What's up?
It's Ashton.
It's Ashton.
Of course.
And I'm like, man, I wanted to kill you, man. I was.
Do they tell you, like, do you get a list of, hey, don't ask about the me, don't ask about the baby, don't ask about the this? Like, do you guys get those things?
Publicists will walk up and they'll say, hey, we're really not trying to talk about that today. And I'm like, well, I really am. I got to ask.
Nice.
I'm going to ask this. So let's all figure out. Let's all understand where this is going to happen and how this is going to happen and what's going to go down so that we all can handle this like big people and adults.
So in other words, if they try to edit you, you'd more likely say, I'll just pass on the interview.
We'll pass on the interview, or we will pass on the interview, or it's going to come out of my mouth.
Right.
It's coming. Here it comes.
Right.
Here it comes.
Because it's obvious. And don't talk about the pink elephant in the room type of thing, man. Come on.
And you know what's funny is like you see it's almost like you watch the words go out of your mouth, and you watch them float in the air, and you look at the horror around the room as people's heads start to spin, and then you're like, all right, let's get it. Here we go.
Yeah. Boom. Nice. Kevin Frazier's here. What is next, man? I see, I could tell you a list of what I see, Kevin. You know what I mean? I could tell you, I don't know why this man isn't hosting, several award shows. You give me, Ryan Seacrest before Ryan Seacrest. You know what I'm saying?
I appreciate that.
This media everyman. What direction do you want to take this in?
You know what's funny is that, people always say, well, where do you want to go next? Where do you want to go? And you know what? I want to focus on what I'm trying to do right now and be the best. I don't feel like I'm the best that I can be at this job. I think that every day I got to go in there and bring it and, work as hard as I can to take us to the next level.
Yeah.
And I've always found that things will come if you just stay hunkered down and focus on this thing. And this thing, Entertainment Tonight, this opportunity, this blessing that I've been given, I have to make the most of it, man.
Yeah.
I have to like really every day go in there with energy and excitement and say, you're lucky to be here. Now, what are you going to do with this opportunity? And so that's kind of where my head is at every day. And I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. And as other opportunities come along, you know, you take those and you look at them. But this is the thing, man. It's such a blessing and a big gig.
Yeah.
And I never take it for granted.
You've inspired me this weekend, man. I like that. I like that. How do you stay grounded in the midst of Hollywood, man? How do you allow yourself to stay to stay Kevin in the midst of everything?
There are two things. Number one, I'm married to a woman who is a federal public defender.
That helps.
And she every day is defending the people who are defenseless,
Yeah.
you know, the people who have no one else standing up for them. She's in the jails. She's dealing with death penalty cases. So it kind of balances out what
Right.
I do.
And
you
you're
know?
talking to Demi Lovato.
Right. And you know, I'll never forget that one day I was like, oh, I had to wait 3 hours because for this interview with this star. I'm not going to shout out the star's name. I almost slipped. But anyway, I was like, man, I had to wait 3 hours. I'm so irritated. And my wife said, you know, I'm standing behind a dumpster looking at a murdered woman's clothes. So I'm going to shut you down right now. And I'm going to get off the phone with you. And I was like, good point.
Perspective, sir.
Perspective,
Yes.
young man, perspective. And
Yes.
so that's the big thing. It's like, that's number one. And number two, I mean, my family is everything. And that's, it's not about Hollywood. It's about my family. And, people, we forget as we go along this journey, we get to work with amazing people.
Yeah.
And we get to
Yeah.
spend time with these people, being on the road or whether you're sitting in the booth every day, and you spend a large amount of time with these people. And it's like, enjoy those moments, whether you're at a bank and the teller you're sitting next to, or whether it's, the person you're driving a bus and you're, the people who get on every day. It's like we sometimes get so wrapped up in our jobs, we just don't enjoy the moments. So when I get to do these amazing things, I enjoy those moments, but I enjoy just as much going home and sitting with my boys and going to soccer practice or
Yeah.
basketball practice or sitting in the backyard and doing something cool.
I like it, man. I like
You
it.
know?
Much success to you, bro. I'm glad we finally got a chance to sit down and chop it up.
My
bro.
life will never be the
don't
same when I'm
understand,
riding in
man.
my car.
Stop talking
You mess
like
me
that.
up. You
Stop
mess
it,
me
man.
up.
Entertainment Tonight. You know the jingle. You know the show. The standard. The torch bearer.
We're trying to hold it down. We're trying to hold it down.
No, no, no,
Thanks
no,
for
no,
having me,
no.
man. Thanks for having me.
No.
But I am going to be geeked up every time I hear you. You don't understand. You don't understand.
Yo, man, the feeling is mutual, man.
Awesome.
Much success to you. Kevin Frazier's here. It's the Heat, Sirius XM. Yes! Yes!